Hello, everybody. I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of Startup CPG. If you're watching on YouTube today, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And I'm really excited to host our friends from Settle on today's webinar. We have partnered with Settle for many years now. They have supported some of our favorite things that we get to do, like female founder booth giveaways and just so in-person events and just so many incredible things. So I'm really excited for everybody to get to learn about this free inventory tool that they have where you can run a lot of your business in a free platform. Free is a great price tier. We love free. So I'm going to pass it over to them in just a second. And yeah, would just love to have everyone kind of sound off in the chat here about what they're doing around inventory currently. And then as we go through, feel free to throw your questions in the Q&A that we'll log. So we're going to go through a couple upfront slides, and then we're going to, of course, jump in and actually see a demo here. So with that, I'm going to pass over to our friends from Settle. And thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that introduction. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining the live demo today. So my name is Seth Horton, and I am one of the solutions architects at Settle. And so what our roles are is really for getting everyone to set up for success on the platform and making sure that we're mapping your workflows to best represent those in Settle as well. I'm also thrilled to have Becca Campbell as well join us. She is the senior director of customer success. Becca will also be available during the presentation to answer any questions in the chat, and then we'll also have a Q&A session at the end for any live questions as well. So don't hesitate, drop those questions, and we can definitely answer them as we go. So we're really excited to walk you through the capabilities of our platform. So just kind of a quick agenda, we're going to intro you to Settle, and then we're going to really dive into the demo and show you how it actually works. I've spent the last week or so creating my own CPG brand just so I can actually walk through those workflows with you live. And so I've taken a lot of real world examples I already have and kind of incorporated those into the demo. So we'll go through the inventory and SKU management, the vendor and location setup, purchase orders, landed costs, receiving payments, production transfers, all of those fun things as we go through the demo.
And by the way, people sounded off here. For what they're using currently, I think I saw 2 Google Sheets, one just general spreadsheets, and 2 people saying they're using Shopify
Gotcha.
for some kind of light tracking, but noted some challenges with it.
Yeah, that's definitely common in a lot of the CPG brands that we work with. And so Google Sheets are powerful and you can definitely set up a lot of automations with them, but as you grow, it's definitely worth having everything kind of flown to one spot. And so I think you'll see that with the platform as we go into it. Um, but before we jump into the platform, I kind of want to briefly touch on why Settle exists and a bit about our journey. Settle actually began as a working capital for CPG brands, so giving out working capital loans, helping grow CPG brands, especially during those hard times where you need to stock up for busy season, but you might not get all that money until a few months down the road. And so really kind of helping you give the money to get you those working capital loans up front. Through that experience and obviously working closely with CPG brands, we've really saw kind of a significant challenge, and that was the struggle with disconnected systems and missed opportunities. So you have a problem, you have warehouse management like ShipBob, you have inventory management like Send7, sales orders, accounting platforms, bill pay platforms, and while all of those are really great and strong in their own right, it's always hard to pull all that information into one place for you. And so this is where we've really worked and tried to highlight a clear need for a more integrated solution. And this has led to the expansion of Settle into more of an IMS platform where, yes, we still have the working capital options, we have bill pay options, and now we're going to be able to pull inventory levels and also do procurement as well to really keep track of your landed costs. All right, so let's jump in. All right, so this is the main dashboard for the Settle platform. So as you log in, you can see immediately that it's really going to dive into the financial side of things. So my business, Nourish and Thrive, like I said, I have been created this for the last week. It is a organic vegan protein shake company. So I handle all of the procurement of raw ingredients, packaging, etc., and then I send those all to my co-man for production. So on this main page, if you are eligible for working capital, the first thing you're going to see at the top is that actually working capital loans. So how much have you extended? What's your eligibility, etc. From there,
How does that work exactly? Like if you're eligible, you have to apply for that, or it's
You do, yeah. So we have an application process. So you don't have to use, working capital to do the IMS features. It can be vice versa or both together. And so there's actually an application process that we go through where kind of similar to underwriting a loan and everything, where we're checking financials and then we can see if we are able to provide working capital loans. So down here, we're going to see the breakdown of kind of the cash outflow of the company. And so you can see any unscheduled bills, scheduled and initiated, any completed bills, and then we have our cash outflow graph. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on here because I think we'll come back to this at the end of the demo because it'll make a little bit more sense then. But we're really going to be taking all of the stuff that we're going to be doing through the demo, like purchase orders, invoices, bills, etc., and then that will make sense of where all these numbers are coming from. So getting going, I'm going to go to the catalog. So we really like to start with a universal catalog and setting up for success from that point. So I know working with a lot of CPG brands, you have SKUs kind of all over the place. You have Shopify SKUs, you have Amazon SKUs, you have your WMS SKUs. We want to be able to point all of those to one item in the Subtle platform. And so you're not having to go and search for all those items multiple times in different systems. And so we have this idea of a universal catalog. So we have not only can we do obviously finished goods. So we have like my main seller, which is the Vanilla Bean Bliss protein shake. We also can do ingredients, packaging, and you can even see I have like an influencer kit, and then obviously inventory or packaging or raw materials to create my finalized product. If I jump into any of my catalog items, this is where Settle can actually set up production bill of materials. And so in here, we can go in and say, okay, what goes into this finished product for the Vanilla Bean Bliss, and how much of it do we need to use to actually use up those components? So you can see here at the bottom, I've created this production one. We can set it up to multiple decimal places. We have different unit of measures, and then we can see this all of these go into build one case of my product. If we go to kind of one of my raw materials, this is where we can also set up our vendor purchasing source. You're going to get a quick glance of landed costs. I'll definitely come back to this in just a minute, but this is, I just want to highlight this is where you can actually see kind of tracking of landed cost over time. But this is where we would set up our vendor sources or purchasing sources. We can have multiple vendors per SKU. So we know a lot of companies order from multiple places for the same item. One might be faster but more expensive, one might be slower but cheaper. And so you might go back and forth on when you're ordering those items. And we can come into here and we can actually set it up with the vendor SKU, the lead time, the unit cost. And then one of my favorite things is actually our vendor unit of measure. So on the main page, you can see we have a unit of measure here, and that's our inventory unit of measure. But we know that's not what vendors always have you order in, especially in the food and beverage space. I've worked with a ton where they like, hey, we order a drum of this, and a drum is equivalent to 450 pounds. And that is the unit of measures that they have to order it. And so we actually have the ability to do that unit of measure automatically from the purchase order all the way to the inventory, making sure it's correct.
And just for everyone, if you guys have questions, definitely drop them in the Q&A as we go through, because I know we have different levels of kind of starting points for brands. Don't be afraid to ask an early question, and we'll surface ones that we think are relevant to everybody. And just by the way, I also, if you want to, this tool is free that they've launched. If you want to talk to them about it, you can email them. I dropped the email in the chat here. It's hello@settle.co.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. You can also see that we have the ability to label all of our SKUs as well. So this is really where organization come into play. You can label them, whatever you'd like. You can create unlimited labels and really keep track of all of your different SKUs, especially if you have a larger catalog in the system that way. That way. Now you may be asking, okay, so we have these SKUs in different spots. How are we going to point them all to one item in Settle? And that's where our sync center comes in. So part of my role and what we do is we help get all of you linked to, WMS systems, to Shopify, to Amazon, to quite a few different systems, QuickBooks, any of those, to make sure that we're getting all the information we can in one place. And then you can see we basically have what we call a SKU sync center, where you can go in and actually merge items or create them own. So for example, this Nourish and Thrive hat, this is a brand new item that I've rolled out and it came over from Shopify, and I can easily just click create and it's going to build that catalog item up for me automatically. If it already exists in the catalog, it's quick and simple and you can just merge it, and that's going to pull all the sales data from that item in Shopify, or, inventory levels from your WMS into that same SKU in Settle. From there, we got our catalog set up. Now let's talk about locations and vendors. So we have the ability to have manual locations in the Settle platform. So if you are fulfilling out of your house, or if you have a small warehouse facility that you rent and you fulfill out of, we actually have the ability to set those up as a manual location. Or if you're using a 3PL type service, we actually do integrate to quite a few different WMS platforms where we can actually pull these in automatically. And then in here, we can actually go and set all of your inventory levels to start. We can set, addresses, operational details, and all that. So that way it's all seamless when you go to place those different documents in the platform. And then we also have our vendors. And so this is our main vendors that you're going to be ordering from. We want to make this as easy as possible. So, part of the setup is we go into here, we can actually enter in EIN numbers, we can enter in business addresses, operational details. And then this is also where we can actually enter in payment terms and payment terms trigger information. And that all leads to the cash outflow graphs on the first page. So really understanding when are we going to actually have to pay for these items for placing this PO. All right, so now we've got everything set. We've got the catalog made, we've got the locations and vendors ready to go. So now we can actually get going. So I am going to start a production run for one of my beverages, and I am going to start ordering the raw materials for these items. I've went ahead and drafted up a PO in the system, and so I'm ordering from my aloe ingredients. You can see over here, we have the line items listed down here. As you can see, it's pulling in those unit of measures automatically for you from that catalog setup. So we know that you're ordering all these items in bags, containers, pounds, etc. And then it's building that PO for you over here. And so it's automatically, building the details, the bill to, the contact details, and then the line items for all of those items to be shipped out for you. So once we do that, you can see that we start to see a landed cost calculate here. This is preliminary, so you can see it's just kind of pulling those numbers over right away, just because there's no additional expenses on here yet. But this is where we actually start to see the process of calculating landed cost in the Settle platform. So this is all good. I have all of my destinations set up. So this is going to my manufacturer. So I'm going to go ahead and send this out. And this will be ready to go now in an open status. So let's say we actually get the bill for this now. So I placed my PO, and now we have the bills come in for the main invoice for the ingredients and then also for the shipping as well. So we have a couple of different ways you can enter bills into the system. Every account gets its own email address that you can just email or forward those bills to, and we'll automatically populate them for you. Or you can drag and drop and add bills separately as well. So I've got two kind of created already. I'm going to drag those over and get those inputted into the system. So as you can see, I have my invoice for my main products, and then I have a freight bill as well. And I'll show you why both of these are important in terms of calculating the landed cost for the items. So if I go into my main ingredients, this is something that was created for me. It has the invoice number and everything. And as you can see, it automatically pulls in the vendor and automatically line items or itemizes everything for you. So it really saves you that time, especially if it's a longer invoice of really having to go through here and have to enter in all that information. Also, because I have the PO already on here, it automatically linked that document to the purchase order. And so now that those two documents are linked together, and you can start to see that we're going to see a three-way match or a comparison start to come to play. We'll get into that in just a minute, but that just wanted to highlight that's where it's starting to. On here, you can easily, in the Settle platform, just proceed to payment directly from the bill. So you can come into here. This is where you can pay from your bank account that you sync. You can pay the full amount, a certain portion of it, etc. And then you can actually schedule for when that needs to go out. This is also where the finance payments come into play. So if you did want to finance this payment, this is where you'd come into here, click finance payment if you're approved for working capital, and then you can actually choose which type of loan that you're basically taking out to pay this bill. For this one, I'm just going to pay from my bank account, and I'm going to go ahead and schedule that. And then this is ready to go now, and it's scheduled, and my bill is ready. Now we have my other bill, which is our freight bill. So this is for shipping of those items to my co-man. You can see we have freight shipping, fuel surcharge, customs clearance fees, and then the word that everyone loves right now, tariffs. And so these all come into play with the landed cost of your finished goods. And so these are really important to make sure that we're tying correctly to the purchase order. To do so, I'm actually going to jump back to my purchase order, save a little time so I don't have to manually enter all of these on additional expenses, and then come down here and I can actually see add from existing bill. And I'm going to click into here and find that Swift Logistics. And you can see it pulls over all the line items automatically. So even if you don't want to put all of those on there, you can, or you can choose and select which ones you want. And then I'm going to go ahead and link those 4 line items because they all do play a role on this PO itself. It's going to ask you for the type. So, most of these will probably fall under shipping, but if you have production costs, if you have surcharges, whatever the type might be, you can choose them here. And then let me get these in here. And then you can also allocate based off of quantity. And then you can also allocate versus volume or weight. So if you're a company that orders really heavy items and very light items and they all get shipped together, you can actually allocate different light items based off of weight as well to make sure that you're as accurate as possible. All right, so now I've got all my line items for my additional expenses. And as you will see, if I go back to my inventory page, all of my landed costs have now updated with the true landed costs for this PO with all of those additional expenses tied into it. And so you can see now we go up to 10 decimal places, but we have accurate landed costs for all of my different products. And this comes into play with rolling those up into the work order for my finished products. Another nice thing I like to highlight with POs is we do have an audit trail for everything. So you can see when it was created, when it was sent, if you can actually tag different team members in here as well. You can make comments, whatever you would like to do. And then one of my other favorite things is we have the ability to link documents. So not only do you have the bills linked to it, but you can actually link external documents too. So especially for like food and beverage or makeup companies, a lot of POs have testing, requirements around each batches, and you can actually upload those testing documents or any other things that you want to keep track of to that PO, so it's all consolidated in one place. One more thing I'd like to highlight is we do have the ability to actually have multiple shipments as well. So a few companies I've worked with, they say, hey, Seth, I order blanket orders. So I place a blanket PO for 100,000 units, but they're going to only ship those out to me in 10,000 increments. And so, for example, in this one, I'm ordering cans and brights. You can see I placed a blanket order for 100,000 units, but we need to keep track of how those different shipments are coming. And so on here, you can see down here, we have the shipments. So I have the first one, and then I can actually add multiple shipments as we go as those shipments get shipped out to you. And so you can see you'll have shipment one quantity. So let's say they're only going to send 10,000 to start. Shipment two, we're going to send another 10,000. And you'll notice that as I'm doing that, it's going to identify if it's under what your blanket item is. And so, if we have multiple shipments and, let's say this last one is a big one, but that's actually going to be the last one that they send you. So you're actually only going to get 70,000. That's okay with you. You're fine with that. You can close out this PO now. You can actually see on here, you can click update the PO and then they'll automatically do that on the platform for you. So no going back and forth, just doing everything from one screen and making sure that it's all consolidated for you.
Seth,
Yeah.
around shipping stuff, like when you get emailed a notification from a shipping company about the transit, like this has been received and here's the quantity, does that stuff is it going to sync automatically up with the system, or do you need to then take it and go and manually update stuff as like, progress and tracking numbers and all that?
Yeah, great question. So right now you would have to come in here and update the progress as it goes. We are about to roll out a milestone feature for our POs where hopefully we're going to be able to keep track of that a little bit better. And then obviously, long-term goals, we'd love to get to the point where we are pulling in that information automatically.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. And then if you're sending a multiple destination, that's fine too. So if you place a blanket order for 100,000 units, but two of them are going to one area, another one's going to a different location, you can have multiple destinations on all of your shipments as well. All right, and then you can see, obviously, here's some highlights, what's on track. And so let's say for this one, we're expecting 10,000 units for the first one. I can go ahead and click receive in the system to get those into the system. We have a couple different methods of creating a GRN or a goods received notice. So if you are connected to a WMS integration, we do pull those in automatically. So let's take a ShipBot, for example. We connect with them, we're able to pull in, hey, they received in 10,000 units of these items, and then we can actually sync those directly to this PO. If you are using a manually managed location, then you can easily come into here. You could upload a file. I know a lot of people just say they get text messages from their warehouses or their manufacturers say, hey, we got all your items, you're good to go. You can even upload a screenshot of that text message just for records as well. I'm going to go ahead and create the GRN document. And then this is basically going to show what did we get. And so for this one, we received 70,000 units in, and then I can click confirm. And then as we go back, you can now see the status is updated to receive for this one. I'm going to jump back to our main PO with all of our ingredients to show you our through a match functionality. So we've ordered the products, we've paid for the products, and now we're starting to receive in those products. So for this one, all these items, I'm going to go ahead and receive in this PO for all those items going to my co-man. And then what I'm going to highlight is what happens if we get short shipped. So this happens quite often. Things get lost. And so I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, we only got 150 of these items. And this is all going to my manufacturer. So before, you would have to pull all these items, and hopefully you have a big enough monitor to kind of pull all those documents up and kind of compare everything together. That's where the Settle platform comes in, and we actually have what we call a three-way match. And so we can come into here, click compare to bill and GRN. And as you can see, we're going to start pulling everything up and having the invoice, the purchase order, and the goods received notice over here. Couple things I want to highlight real quick. We'll start to show some discrepancies. So it looks like on here we have double line items. So obviously that's throwing an error right there. But then for the cinnamon, we ordered 150 pounds or 4 bags, but we got short shipped. And so it's going to highlight those discrepancies on here. And so it really gives you that power to say, what did I order? What did I pay for? And then what did I receive? And then that gives you the power to either go back to your co-man, go back to your manufacturer, or go to your warehouse and say, hey, where are the rest of these items that I ordered? Perfect. Becca, are we good on questions right now, or should I just keep going?
I think you're good to keep going. I'm getting through them, but I
Okay,
think we're good to keep going.
perfect. All right, so I've ordered my raw materials. Now I'm ready to start my actual production run of my goods. And so this is where our work orders come into play. So I can come into here, I can go ahead and start creating a work order. And similar to a purchase order, you're going to choose your vendor. So who's actually creating these items? You're going to select a work order number. It auto generates one, but you can always override it and put in whatever you would like. Issue date, memo field to add anything onto those work orders, and then what are we actually producing? And so on here, I'm going to say I need to produce 1,000 cases of my Vanilla Bean Bliss. And then this is going to be shipped to my East Coast warehouse afterwards. This starts building out the work order. And as you can see on here, it's now saying, hey, you need to produce 1,000 units of this. And then it's taking that BOM that we set up earlier and calculating all of the raw materials that you're going to need to produce that production run. And so you can easily take this, do a draft work order, and then go place your POs for all the raw materials, come back and open it when you're ready. Or if you already have a substantial amount of raw materials at your co-man, you can just open this right away and start that production process of your finished goods. Now, as the same, part of the Settle platform is the main reason is we really want to keep track of landed costs over time. And so not only are we keeping track of your raw materials, we're also keeping track of your finished goods. So we're going to take the landed cost of all of these items, roll them up into your finished good, and make sure we're accurately tracking how much did it actually cost to create one case of this drink. You can also add additional expenses just like we did on the PO. So you can easily come into here and say, hey, they finished the manufacturing of this and there is a tolling fee. And so they're going to charge me a production cost of, let's say, $1.99 per can. And then I can actually go and add that cost in here automatically for a tolling fee. You can also add shipping and everything. And then this will all roll up into the landed cost of your finished goods as well. Same thing with POs. You can automatically send this to the vendor from the platform. You can also just pop into open and then you can manually receive this in as well. And so production run is done. They shipped it out. My warehouse has now gotten it. I can come back into here and say, okay, I've gotten my 1,000 cases of this product. It did arrive at my East Coast warehouse. And then it's keeping track of that inventory movement on here. And then the other thing is you can also always still link to bills on the additional expenses. So shipping bills, production fees, etc. You can always link to those directly from here. Same thing, you will have multiple shipments as well. So if your work order for some reason is being shipped out in multiple parts, you can have multiple shipments too. And then you can receive them as they go through. And then since we created that GRN, it's linked here, and you can see that it went ahead and closed that work order out because it is completed at this point. All right, now let's jump to transfers. So not going to spend a ton of time on here, but this is basically how you can move inventory between locations in your own system. And so a lot of the times, like if you are selling on Amazon and you have to send FBA shipments to them, this is where you could actually create those transfers in here. And so this, you could come into here, say I'm sending these from my East Coast warehouse, and then we could have Amazon, you can send this to your West Coast warehouse, basically moving any inventory between your own locations after it's been created. And then as always, we are keeping track of landed costs. So we'll have, your finished product, how many are you moving? And then you can add additional expenses on here as well. So all the documents tie together where you can add additional expenses, link to bills, making sure you're keeping track of the movement of inventory and how much it actually costs. This all plays a role in basically creating your inventory movement in the platform. And so on our inventory pages, we can now really see where that inventory is going, how much I have left, and what's being used. So let's take a look at these cans at the top. I can see from my PO that I placed, I have 370,000 units incoming. I have 67,000 units on hand, and that's at my liquid solutions manufacturer. If I jump over to, one of my finished products, I can actually see the breakout between different locations. And then with any WMS integrations, we are pulling in inventory levels once a day from those WMS integrations as well. So you could actually see Amazon levels at FBA. You could actually see ShipBop levels, and you'll be able to see this all in one place under one SKU, and making sure that it all ties back to what you're doing in the Settle platform as well. All right. So this kind of leads to back to our demand page or our dashboard. So on here, now the cash flows kind of actually make a little bit more sense. We have, basically our vendors set up with different payment terms. We have POs being entered into the system, and now we can actually see what's already been scheduled, what is estimated to be paid, maybe from bills or from a PO, and then what's pending approval, and basically showing how much cash am I going to need over the next, 6 months to make sure that my business stays afloat for all of my all the movement of goods I have. We also use this information to calculate what we call an end of month report. And so this is where a lot of our companies really value, and they can understand, where this inventory movement is happening. And so we do it per SKU, per location base. So if you have a SKU that's at multiple locations, we'll break out a line by line for each one. And then basically what we're going to do is calculate the beginning of month balance, take a snapshot, January 1st, at 12:01 a.m. And then anything received in, anything consumed by work orders, transferred or sold. I'll get into the sales channels here in just a second. And then we're going to compare that to an end of month balance and basically create a write-off or a variation column to make sure that you're either keeping track of all your products, and if there is any variations. I come from the 3PL world, so I know a lot of things sometimes get accidentally misplaced, but then found about, 2 days later. And so, inventory can move pretty regularly, especially at WMS locations. We also calculate a COGS for you as well. So we're taking all of this calculation, we're going to roll that up into a COGS calculation for you, and basically give you that valuation of your inventory at each location per SKU. All right. Last thing I would love to show you is our demand forecasting. So I'm going to jump over to another page real quick and show you kind of what that looks like. So 1 second. All right. Can everyone see this one where it says NNT at the top? Perfect. All right, so we not only are we gathering all this information from your integrations, just to kind of keep track of inventory as it moves forward, but we're also helping create a demand forecast for you as well. And so on our sales orders, basically we're pulling in orders from Shopify, if we click into here, and just FYI, this is a different demo account, so that's why the SKUs are a little bit different. But you're going to see the item name, the SKU, the unit price, and the quantity that was ordered. And then we're going to pull in all that data from your WMS, from Amazon, from Shopify, and we're going to actually be able to build a demand forecast for you. And so what we're doing is we're analyzing the last 12 months of your sales. We do it on a per unit basis, per SKU. And then we're going to look at kind of three different models. We're going to look at your overall store growth, how it's growing, how it's overall doing, any seasonality. So if you have different SKUs that have different months that are definitely higher than others. And then we could create this demand forecasting curve for you per unit. And so, for example, our Blueberry Bliss bar here, I can click into here and then I can actually see a breakdown of, hey, I'm expected to sell 650 units in November, 700 in December, and per month we can actually give you this data. And then we actually have the ability to do it per week as well for 6 months.
And down below, you can add in your own forecast if you're a growing brand, lopping on accounts. Right.
Exactly. And let's say you're selling to UNFI, or you have some EDI transactions that might not make it into one of the integrations that you're using. And so you can easily come into here and say, hey, this is for UNFI, and I'm expecting to sell 250 units over the next couple months as well, and that'll roll up as well. And you can even add marketing. Let's say you're going to do a marketing push in June for this, and you can add those extra units there too. And that all is on the platform, so you can easily jump into it from your stock page, right back to demand, and then you can easily jump into here and see actually the breakdown of all your different SKUs. Other couple quick smaller things, but I'd love to highlight, we obviously have user roles. We know not everyone at the company does everything, and so you can actually come into here and say, who has what access. So procurement can only do purchase orders, work orders. Let's say you do actually get approved for a working capital loan, but you don't want the rest of your team to see that. You can actually limit, who's going to be able to see certain information on the platform. And then also, we have approval rules as well. So this affects, payments, bills, and purchase orders. So if you have someone on your team that is doing all the purchase orders, but it always needs to get approved by someone else, we can actually set up automatic rules in here saying, hey, if it's this vendor, if it's this amount, this category, tons of different options that you can choose from. You can add multiple conditions, and then you can choose who's going to approve that. And then when they submit it, it'll actually go automatically to that person in the system. And same thing with payment and bills as well. So I love to highlight that because really gives you the power to have control over your procurement, and as if you're CEO or CFO and you're running the business, but you're not doing all the in and outs of it too. All right. That is about all I had to show you. I would love to know, Becca, is there anything that we need to go back and highlight, or any questions that we have?
I've got a couple to come in with. And yeah, Becca, because I know you were answering a lot of questions in the chat as we went through. Maybe, Becca, you can surface any that you think we should cover. And then, yeah, the first thing I want to remind everybody is that you can chat with the team here. This is a free tool that they have. And if you want to reach out and talk to them, I just dropped the email address, hello@settle.co, again here in the chat. One question that came in, like, hey, a lot of companies charge for this stuff. How come this is free? And is all of this stuff available for free? Is there other stuff you would pay for to add on to this, or it's just all free? What's the deal?
Yeah, it's a great question, and actually teed me up perfect for kind of what is included on the freemium model. And so, we really are trying to give you a lot on the free plan. So, you're getting a landed cost, weighted average, inventory management, some inventory forecasting, cash outflow graphs, three-way match discrepancies. You're getting a lot of the stuff that I did show you in terms of what is actually included. A lot of our brands find, Accelerate is really where they live because they get a little bit more. They get landed costs, basically, definitely, you're getting it FIFO then as well. Real-time inventory levels, inventory forecasting, and then you get the end of month report and unlimited three-way match analysis too. So, overall, it's still relatively, cheaper for software, especially for what all you're getting with it. And a lot of our brands find, a promise with the Accelerate platform.
Okay. Another question that I have. So, with some, I think, inventory management software, like it's not just it immediately works out of the box. Like there's work that you have to do, right, to do this, and it takes somebody who is willing to do the work. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that like a normal person isn't capable of doing that, but you do need like some, you're gonna have questions. Would you say that pretty much anybody is capable of doing this? Do people ever need help, like consultants to help them set this up? What do you see most people doing?
I don't think you'll ever need consultants because that's where my team comes into play. I mean, we're here to help get you set up for success on here. And so, we work directly with you with catalog builds, with making sure that bombs are set up correctly, with making sure that, your integrations are working properly, that inventory levels are reflecting. And then we are also, really doing a lot of the heavy lifting up front for you to make sure that the platform is ready to go. And so, part of my role is we build catalogs out. So I'll have customers just send me over Shopify downloads, of their products and then maybe a list of their raw materials. And then I'll go in here and build those out for you. And so that way you can just jump into the platform and start using it. I love to think that the platform is pretty intuitive. You can easily go into here, add new catalog items as they come in. With integrations, they'll show up in the sync center. So it's easy to create those items from there if you have new products that you're releasing. And so we're really here to help you get set up for success and making sure that it's going well for you.
Okay, great. Another one I saw come up a few times was questions around lot codes. Like, can you just talk about a little bit more? How does that get integrated here?
Yeah.
Lot codes, best by dates, tracking different lots.
Great question. So I'll jump back into a PO. And so let's go back to this can ones. Probably cans don't have lots, but we'll go ahead and assume that for this circumstance they do. And actually on the GRN, when you actually receive it in, that's actually where you can actually enter in lot codes as well. And so we do want to give you the ability to track by lots. And so on here, as you're receiving those items, you can track by lot right here. Enter the lot code. It is a text field, so you can enter whatever you'd like. And then how many is received. I know a lot of finished products might actually have multiple lots on one shipment, and so you can easily just keep adding those lines, changing the lot code to whatever you need to be, and then adding the received quantities for those lots.
Okay, I gotcha. Um, Another one that came up is just around some like, does my warehouse integrate with this or my 3PL? A few people asking like, well, how will I know if they do or they don't?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I believe, Becca, I don't know what our number is at right now, but I think we're over 65 or 70. Is that correct?
I think we're just at over 82.
Okay. So we're at over 82 WMS systems that we connect with. So that fits most of them that people are going to be using. But the other great thing is our integration team is amazing, and we are always looking at new WMS systems to integrate to. And so if you have a question on that, please just email us, ask us, and let us know what WMS system that your 3PL or that your warehouse is using. We can look to see if we already do integrate with that. And then if we do, it's quick and easy. We can get that set up. If we don't, I've seen our integration team get new WMS integrations up and running in about 4 weeks. So it's a pretty quick turnaround to get connected to those two.
Okay,
And Seth,
great.
I was going to drop the link to the supported warehouses in the chat too.
Perfect. Thanks, Becca.
Another question, this is around how do you compare this to other tools that are out there? There are other tools that people can use. So, obviously you guys work for Settle and have built this tool and would love to extol all of its virtues. But how would the free version of this and some of the paid versions compare to other tools that are out there on the market in terms of capability, setup,
Yeah.
performance, whatever?
I've worked with a lot of companies like NetSuite, N7, those kind of tools. And while there's a time and a need for those kind of softwares, especially as you grow and get bigger as a company. NetSuite is very powerful, since 7 is as well, but I'll also say this, those softwares are not for everyone. NetSuite is a beast to set up. It is very expensive, takes a lot of time and effort to get actually working properly, and nothing is out. There's very few things that are out of the box for NetSuite. You always have to add on little sweetlets to get connected to other softwares and things like that. And so we found that Subtle is that really great spot for CPG brands who are maybe pre-revenue even, or getting into it, starting off and really building out their business. They have a couple sales channels like Shopify, like Amazon. They maybe have one or two warehouse locations, but overall pretty condensed, workflows and manufacturing operations where you can easily keep track of your products without getting into the weeds of a bigger brand like NetSuite or Sen7. They definitely have their time and the place. I mean, for heavy production, automotive industry, those kind of things, I can definitely see and push towards Send 7 and NetSuite. But I think for a lot of CPG brands, we've designed Settle to be as user friendly as possible to make it easy to get in and out of the software without being burdensome or over encumbered.
Okay.
I
Becca, do
also
you
have two
have?
questions.
Yeah, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
totally. Seth, first one is on kits and bundles. Can you talk a little bit? Sorry, I know that's a pretty open-ended question, but maybe if you want to talk about how you can track those at the individual level or as part of the kit, et cetera.
Yeah, great question. So with our system, I did show you the production bomb setting that up, but we do have the ability to have kit to order or virtual bundles as well as kit to stock or pre-made bundles. And so let's take my influencer kit, for example. I know when I have to send an order out to an influencer, they already have these products at the warehouse, but I just need them to combine them into one box to ship out. And so that's where I can actually set up a BOM or bill of materials for a kit to order, where I can actually take finished products, list out what goes into that, and then as we grab those sales orders from Shopify, from Amazon, we now know, hey, it's actually all of these items being fulfilled on that order going out. So if we are manually tracking your inventory in the system and it's all using Shopify orders to decrement that inventory, then it will know, hey, grab these 4 items to make sure that we're shipping those out and keeping track of inventory properly.
Awesome. Okay, second question is a little bit about historics. So the question has come up, does tracking start when a brand first signs up for Settle? Are we pulling in any historics? And then the second question, or the sort of like sub question to that is, does that also then help feed into or populate the inventory forecasting?
Yeah, great question. So for the historic sales channels, when we connect, and sorry, that's on my other demo account, but we do pull in basically your sales channel, your sales orders for the last, I think, believe 2+ years. And so that's really how we're going to start generating that demand forecasting. So even if we only get your catalog set up and then connect to Shopify and grab those sales orders, we're still going to be able to start doing a demand forecast right away, basically for your platform, without having to have anything in purchase orders, work orders, etc. My team can always come back and help add in purchase orders or work orders, bills, to pull those in historically. We also do have integrations with Final Loop, with QuickBooks, with
And one of, and sorry if you already talked about this one, I was like mad answering questions, but did you already touch on if a customer can
let's say for this one, it's still in an open status, but I did already send off the initial one to my vendor. I can always come back in here and actually say, hey, I need to update this, and I'm actually going to order 7 of these, and then that will automatically adjust, and then you can actually resend to your vendor from here as well. So you can always update in the PO, and then you can always come back, even if the PO is closed, you can always come back and add those additional expenses too. And so we're always tracking landed costs. Nothing ever gets locked out in terms of calculating those landed costs for you.
and this one may be obvious, but for as I'm adding new SKUs to Shopify or to TikTok, Amazon, how does that update within my seller catalog?
Yeah, great question. So for this, for integrations, what most likely happens is it'll come to your sync center. So the nice thing is when you log in, you're automatically going to see this, like if there are new SKUs. So first highlight saying, hey, we got some new SKUs from your integration. You can easily come into your sync center, check out what SKUs they are, and then you can actually merge them into an existing settle item or create automatically from here. Or if it's a test SKU and you're never going to have any sales on that, you can actually archive directly from here as well. So that way you can always keep up to date with your platform and making sure that everything is accurate as possible.
All right. One question I wanted to throw out to the audience, because there are quite a few people here, maybe everyone could share, is if you're not using an inventory management system yet, what is it that is making you not need one? Is it because you're not big enough that you think you need to go and actually use a system like this? Is it seems complex? Is it you didn't want to you pay for an option? Obviously, there's a base program here that's free. I'd be super interested just to hear from people in the chat. Maybe you can give us some ideas. Just, we've done a lot of content around inventory management in general, and you always hear from people who are using it, like, I would use this again from the beginning. Like, we like using systems from the beginning, like it helps as you grow. But a lot of people don't, and a lot of people, like, and that's okay. But I love to hear a little bit about that from brands who are here. What do you, Becca or Seth, what do you guys hear from people in terms of when they really feel like they need to jump in and start using a system?
I think it's a couple different answers there. So one is they realize that they're not tracking real-time inventory, and so that then impacts their accounting in terms of like inventory valuation, landed costs, etc. One of the big ones that we've seen recently that runs kind of across the spectrum is brands realizing that they need to track landed costs and COGS. Like, if they were sort of on the fence about that, or maybe not feeling as their landed cost tracking wasn't as accurate as it could be, feeling the pressure, especially now with the everything that's going on with the tariffs, to really get on top of that, especially to help them identify top selling SKUs, margins, etc. I think for customers like a little bit further along, there is an inflection point when their processes become more complex. So maybe they go from just purchasing finished goods to now purchasing a wider variety, some unfinished goods, doing some of the manufacturing or procuring of the components. I would say it kind of runs across any one of those. But Seth, did you have something else to add there?
No, and I think you hit the nail on the head. And something I've seen quite often is I've worked with brands that are pre-revenue who have had experience with CPG brands or worked for CPG brands, and they know that this is important to kind of start fresh with and say, hey, yeah, it's an expense I have to take on, but I'm going to have accurate landed costs from the get-go of a brand is always huge to say. And then I've worked with other brands where, it just their workflows become too complex for like a Google sheet. They have too many locations, they have too many SKUs, they have too much movement of inventory, and so one small mistake can lead to a lot of issues. And one of our brands that we actually onboarded, relatively early with the release of this product, they were telling us that the main reasons that they were looking for a software like this was because in 2024 they realized they did an audit of all their inventory movement and realized they had about a $250,000 inventory discrepancies, and just how much that can lead to issues with the brand and taxes and fees and all that kind of stuff, where now they're going to get hit with that, where if they had a system in place from the get-go, like that would be solved for them.
I gotcha. What is it like then if somebody emails you guys? What's the process like from there? You're going to attach them to an account manager. There's going to be a call. They're do an
Yeah, and
assessment.
I can take that one, Seth. Basically, yeah, they'll get connected with a sales rep to do an overview of the platform, a lot of what Seth talked through today, but to also help us understand what their sort of like tech stack looks like and what they're looking to get out of Settle, whether that's POs, inventory management, tracking unfinished goods or finished goods, etc. And then once they're ready to go, they can sign up for an account. So anyone and everyone can get started today for free with that launch plan, and start poking around kind of the system. Then once they're ready to explore it more, or once they're ready to get set up, that's when they get connected with Seth and or our solution architect team to basically help them either do kind of like the one-on-one hands-on training, or if they're feeling pretty adventurous and kind of ready to take it on their own, we have a lot of help center docs that allow a good number of customers to basically connect their Shopify, start pulling in SKUs and get going with their POs. And then from there, we have our customer success team that works with our customers to continue to help them manage their accounts, and also to keep them updated with all of our new features. Our product team is just rolling out new features left and right here. And then they also get access to our support team. So you can't see it here because Seth is on our demo account, but we have an in-app chat experience where, even if when you first sign up and you have some questions, you can get connected with our support team to get those questions answered.
Okay. Were you gonna say something, Seth?
No.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
I saw some questions in the chat.
Yeah,
but
exactly. Yeah. Why don't we just hit some of the ones that are trailing in?
Also, so I think Aaron, I saw something about a feature that allows us to scan an invoice or receipt, definitely. So I didn't highlight this, but with all of our POs, when you're going to close one out, let me jump to an open one. You can always upload a GRN file. So similar to bills and POs, you can upload that, and then we'll scan it automatically with our OCR technology. We always recommend checking, of course, but overall it does a decent job of pulling that information over. And
That was
Jared,
a
yeah,
question around handwritten lot numbers. So the OCR
yeah,
and taking something you've written by hand and pulling it in.
yeah. And like I said, I mean, obviously, depending on the handwriting, it's going to do its best to try to pull that information over. But no matter what, you can always have that record of the handwritten one and then update the information as it's created.
And it
As
looks
many
like
ops
we,
people who like write things by hand, I hope at least it's going to be legible, since there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that's still written by hand in that world.
not sure if this was a question from Jared, but just was asking about Ship Hero too, if that's a WMS we support.
We do, yeah. So we actually connect with ShipHero. I see you're using Google Sheets as well. So, you'd be a prime example of, I really think the Settle platform would benefit you where we can pull in those inventory levels automatically. And then if you have any other locations that you're storing inventory at, we can have those set up as manual locations so you can keep track of everything in one place. I was going to highlight one question from Themby because he talked about different vendors. I touched base on this a little bit, but I always want to go back to it because I think this is definitely a really strong point of the Settle platform. So you can always add multiple vendors to any SKU. I don't think we have a limit, or we have not found that limit yet, at least. But you can easily come into here and say, hey, I ordered this item from multiple different locations. They have different lead time, different unit costs, different unit of measures, and we'll actually keep track of that in the system. So when you go to submit a work or submit a PO for those items, if you choose the aloe for your vendor, it's going to pull in this information. If you choose liquid solutions, it'll pull in this information for you.
And then Seth, can
Okay.
you just go back to a PO also just to answer the question of where we track the additional costs on a PO for landed costs?
Yep. So it will show up on all of your main pages of all your POs. So we can jump into a closed one. You'll see over here on the right side. And if we get rid of the view of the PO, it's a little bit cleaner. You'll see the line items, and then you can easily add the additional expenses here. So this is one area to see them per PO. But then also in the catalog, which I showed really early on, we actually track it over time too. And so you can come into here, see all your different POs or work orders, and then you can see the price change over time against all of those items.
And then Seth, another good one. So I have a small company and want to scale to a medium-sized business. Who are the main users of the tool in a team setting? I think you had maybe covered this a little bit, but would be great to just understand permissions roles and maybe also how we don't have seat-based subscription tiers.
Correct. Yeah. So no seat based. So you're able to invite all of your team members on your at the company. I've had anyone from CEOs in here actively using it. CFOs especially are regularly users of the Settle platform to get COGS, to get landed cost. But then obviously going into the procurement side, I've worked with a couple brands where they outsource some of the procurement labor to kind of help with that aspect of it. And so that's where you can go in and assign them those roles. So they might not have access to any sensitive business information or anything, but they can still go in and start placing POs, work orders, inventory transfers, etc. And then you always have the approval rules as well. So you can easily come into here and say, hey, if this person places a PO, it always has to come to me for approval or to this other team member to make sure that POs, payments, and all those aren't just being sent out randomly.
I think we maybe tackled all of the other questions that I'm seeing
Nice.
so far.
Okay, cool. And yeah, sorry if you guys posted a question, we didn't get to it. We had a lot of people on this today, but definitely as many as possible. So just want to reiterate a couple things here. One, if you want to access this recording later on, we'll email it to you, but you can also, if you subscribe to our YouTube, I just posted the link here. This will go up on our YouTube in just a day or two. If you hit subscribe there, you get all of our recordings because everything goes up onto our YouTube. And I know I've posted this ad nauseum, but if you want to chat with the Settle team now one-on-one, have them do kind of a diagnosis for you, I've just put their email here into the chat, hello@settle.co. They'll get you to the right person and see if this could be a good fit for you. Settle team, anything to end on?
No, it's been great showing off the platform. I really appreciate it. And, I hope that we can get you onboarded and get your back office a little cleaned up for you.
All right.
I was just going to add too that we do also have quite a few videos too. So if there's like some component that you wanted to learn more about or to better understand, like I also said, you get the opportunity to work with our lovely Seth here and or one of our solution architects. You do join at Settle. Otherwise, we have a great number of resources online too.
Awesome.
And thank you for hosting us also.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely. Well, thank you again to the Settle team for all of the support that you've given our community. We especially love the female founder booth giveaways and events that we get to do, and just all of the fun stuff. So thank you guys have supported us for many, many years now. So we really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for tuning in today.
And thanks for all the great questions too.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.